Hello and welcome. I am the Armchair Audiophile, and today we're going to be unboxing and taking a first look at the Aeon Open X. This is a collaboration between Drop, formerly Massdrop, and Dan Clark Audio, formerly Mr. Speakers. When the original Aeon Flow released a few years ago, they retailed for $800 and were a fairly solid headphone for the price. But with the release of the Aeon 2, Dan has been able to team up with Massdrop, to give us the Aeon Open X at $499. Essentially, it's just the original Aeon Flow Open with slightly thinner driver dampening and a new set of partially perforated ear pads. Otherwise, it's more or less the same headphone you would have paid $800 for last year for $300 less. And they claim to have improved the sound quality. So if they've done that, we're looking at a really excellent value for getting into one of Dan's headphones. If you're not familiar with them, Dan's headphones utilize a slightly unique form of planar magnetic driver. It's called V-planar technology, and it involves an accordion-style crease around the edges of the driver material, which allows for more even excursion during playback, allowing the driver to move as more of a flat plane rather than the bowed motion of a standard planar with the edges fixed into the frame. This particular unit is 13 ohms and should be pretty easy to drive. So let's go ahead and get it open. Unlike many Massdrop collaborations, the packaging looks indistinguishable from the original Aeon Flow. I auditioned them a few years ago when I ended up buying my Ether C Flows, and this is the same box, so it's nice to see. Opens up, and we have the headphones themselves in a really nice hard travel case, as well as several pairs of tuning foam. Dan got his start in the headphone modding scene, and so he has a philosophy of sort of allowing users to tune and modify headphones to their preference. So lately he's been including with all of his headphones several pairs of tuning felts and foams that you can swap or stack or combine however you want to sort of modify the sound of the headphone to your preferences. I won't be getting into any of the tuning foams today. I'm going to save that for a deeper dive and eventually a comparison with the LCD1. We're just going to focus on the stock sound without the filters today, but notably, this is something pretty unique that Dan does that I have not seen from any other manufacturer. Let's go ahead and open up the case. I love that this is included because it means it'll be pretty easy to travel with them despite being an open set of headphones. We have the cable here. Let's get it out of the bag. It is a 2 meter or 6 foot cable, and it has a 3.5 millimeter termination with one of these threaded 1/4 inch jacks. On the other end, you have the 4-pin Hirose style connectors that Dan uses on all of his headphones. I'm going to go ahead and get these out. They ship with a small piece of styrofoam in the ear cup to prevent any damage to the drivers, and they appear to come with one of the sets of tuning foams already installed. They're a really nice looking set. This gentle dark blue here. The inserts are supposedly carbon fiber. This appears to be plastic, and the headband is leather. Now I'm going to get this out of the way, get this cable hooked up, and we can give them a listen. To do that, we're going to do things a little bit differently than we usually do on the channel. I have my Samsung Galaxy S10 hooked up to the new iFi hip DAC. It was sent over to me by iFi after they saw how much I enjoyed the X-Can, and it's on loan to me for the next few weeks. I'll be doing an in-depth review on that after I've had a chance to live with it for a while, but I am enjoying it very much at the moment, so decided to throw it in here and see how it works with the Aeons. Okay, somehow the headband is set exactly where I need it to be for my head, as if they knew. I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the hip DAC, which has 3.5 millimeter single-ended and also 4.4 millimeter balanced, which I really like to see. I'm going to go ahead and kick on the power match feature, which increases the gain basically for larger headphones. And we're going to go ahead and fire up my test playlist. We're going to start with Die by Tycho. This is a song with a lot of soundstage going on and a really sort of intimate acoustic guitar playing just in the left channel, so I'm going to be able to get a decent idea of channel separation as well as soundstage, followed by a little bit of the bass performance when that all kicks in a few seconds in. Let's go ahead and start it up. Right off the rip, I'm getting a really fantastic sense of space and distance. They're not as open as I would expect for an open headphone. I know other reviewers have said that, but you know, I'm actually having some difficulty hearing myself through the headphones, which is strange, and definitely not what I experienced with the LCD-1. I have heard the guitar intro sound a little bit more natural on other sets, but the other set I'm comparing it to is, of course, the Ether C-Flow, which is 3 times the price of this unit. Wow. Bass is really authoritative. I wouldn't call it overwhelming to the signature, but boy is it there. At first listen, the way I would describe the presentation of these headphones is dramatic. It's not a neutral signature. It may be a bit of an L shape. I'm gonna have to do the vocal test to see how the mids really perform, but it sounds like the mids and the treble are largely in line with some elevation to the mid bass. Man, I know I gotta move on to another track, but I really want to sit and kind of listen to this whole track. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm going to try to rein in my emotions here and not fanboy too much. I had a fan or two tell me that can compromise credibility if I get too excited. So I'm going to try to tamp down my energy here and just move on to the next track and save the exuberant joy for when I'm done filming. We're going to roll on to Nina Simone, When Chilly Winds Don't Blow, live in New York in 1965 for the vocal test. Okay, as I was expecting, there doesn't really seem to be any recessed character to the vocals here. One of Dan's hallmarks is very, very organic sounding human vocals. He's said in interviews it's something he targets explicitly when he's tuning, and that's on full display here. Interestingly enough, there's some edge to the vocals in the track. You know, you can hear it on every set that I've listened to this particular song on, and from a resolution standpoint, you can really hear that here. It's not necessarily very forgiving in that respect. The upright bass in the right channel sounds really nice. You can hear that reverberation of the wood. You know, it doesn't sound like a flat one-note bass. You can hear a lot of undertones to it. Imaging is also really nice. I was listening to this track on my Galaxy Buds Plus earlier while I was trying to decide what I was going to use as test material for that review, and it all kind of sounded stacked on top of each other, but the background instrumentals on this sound really nicely placed. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to listen to the Shins, Fighting in a Sack. I wanted to hear how these handle a really fast driving track. And again, the characteristic I could describe it best as is dramatic. These are really, really energetic, emotional cans. I know I'm not really making sense in terms of coherent audiophile language right now, but there's something really interesting about these. On this particular track, there might even be more mid-bass than I would prefer, and I suspect that I might be able to adjust that with some of these tuning foams. Another interesting thing on this track is that there's some reverb on the vocals that isn't present on the other instruments, and that is really, really audible. You can hear the reverb on the vocals nice and clearly, and it doesn't affect how close the instrumentals sound in the mix. Cymbals sound excellent. I find that how a headphone produces a cymbal is really indicative of its overall control, and the cymbals in this track are dead spot on for what I'd want. And that's with Nina Simone. I'm not hearing any recession to the vocals. They're, you know, not forward either. They're just nicely layered into the mix. I think this is an L-shaped headphone because the elevation that I'm hearing is only in the bass. So finally, I'm going to test some hip-hop, get a little hardcore with it. This is a track called I Got It On Me, featuring DJ YUNG VAMP, and it's by an artist called NxxxXXXS. That's 5 X's. He's a French producer who has a really incredible sense of Dirty South trap. And the bass is really tight. Attack and Decay are excellent. The clarity of the vocal sample on this track is about as clear as I've ever heard it. Man, there's a lot of sort of tape stop effects and sweeping bass tones that are just perfectly represented. The way that bass comes in. Woo! So if the LCD-1 is a dead neutral mixing and mastering headphone, this is almost the dead opposite. This is a fun headphone. It's not neutral in any way. It is extremely musical, extremely pleasant, extremely fun. And surprisingly, it's not taking a whole lot of power to get there. The iFi Hip DAC only puts out about 280 milliwatts on the single-ended output, and I was expecting that that wouldn't quite do it on this, but with the power match feature running, I couldn't really ask for more. It sounds really good. Obviously, for the deep dive, I'll be testing it with my desktop setup and with the XCAN, but it's performing better than I expected on the Hip DAC. All right, let's go ahead and stop. All right. Aeon Open X. Man, that was powerful. I gotta calm down. Whew. Well, I'm impressed. For $500, this is a really good set at first listen. I'm gonna spend a lot more time with them because they are extremely fun, and I'd like to get a little bit deeper, run some DSD, and see how that micro detail and resolution pans out in the long term, but at first listen, they're really impressive, especially considering how much of a discount you're getting over what these cost not that long ago. And for a handmade unit, made in California, they're made one at a time by hand. There's no assembly line process in Dan's facility. It is one man, one unit. The driver matching is very careful. They look excellent. They're extremely comfortable. They're way lighter than any of the Audeze LCD series above the LCD2. The LCD1s, of course, are significantly lighter, but these are more comfortable than that even. The ear cups are bigger. The shape fits really nicely. And overall, I'm really enjoying them. Without more listening time than the 10 minutes or so I've done here, I can't necessarily say that they're a buy or a don't buy, but they're a lot of fun. And that's what I'm going to leave it at. That's it for me, the Armchair Audiophile, reminding you that life is too short for bad headphones.